And welcome to the Ourlads Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, Ryan McKee, and I am joined, as always, with by our Duke of Depth Charts, Tucker Moss. How's it going, Tucker?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, Ryan?
Okay, great. Yeah, you can't just give a thumbs up because this is an audio version too. So we want to make sure people listen. Can't just give thumbs up. You got to talk sometimes. Tucker is doing well. We are here to talk about fantasy football, risers and falls, who's trending up, who's trending down. Got some names here, so we're going to go through some news, see how that applies to fantasy football, and then it'll be a short, maybe a little bit of shorter episode today since it's just Tucker and I. Couldn't get a guest on today, but that's fine. We don't need guests. We got Tucker.
That's right.
All right, let's go. And me, the host. Okay, so some recent news. The Vikings signed Justin Jefferson to a 4-year, $140 million contract extension. In your eyes, Tucker, does this change how you view Jefferson as a fantasy football asset? Is he trending up, trending down, or is he staying the same right now?
Probably the same. It was expected. I guess it's just a little bit safer because they did come to a deal. You don't ever really know what will happen. Like those talks can just get out of hand and they don't end up signing or whatever. But as expected, he did sign, so it's all good. I think it's mainly just the question of like the quarterback. I feel like coaching is like O'Connell is a really good offensive mind, and I think Jefferson will do well schematically. But it's the question of how good the quarterbacks will be and how their kind of rapport will be. Kirk Cousins obviously has supported receivers a lot through his career.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's going to be a question of Sam Darnold, JJ McCarthy, rookie season. That's like the big question mark for Justin Jefferson is the quarterback. Currently, Draft Sharks, who we use for our rankings, has him ranked third for wide receivers. They have him above Jahmyr Chase, whereas Jahmyr Chase is going in most ADP at number 4 ahead of Justin Jefferson, where Jefferson is going number 5 overall. Who would you rather have, Jahmyr Chase or Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Jefferson has a bigger I feel like he'll probably have a bigger target share. I don't know. I guess there's a lot of mouths in Minnesota too because they have Hawkinson, whereas Cincinnati doesn't really have that much competition from the tight ends. But I don't know. I feel like they're pretty close, but it's just the question of which quarterback you trust more. So I think I might like Chase a little bit better just because I like Burrow better. But then again, he's gotten hurt a lot, so. Yeah. I feel like they're both really great. I think Chase might be a little bit safer though.
Yeah, another thing that we were playing around with today on Draft Sharks, they have a injury predictor, and which is kind of interesting. That's the first one I've seen, and they have Joe Burrow as a very high risk to be re-injured. He's had 11 career injuries, which I didn't realize it was that high. Since 2017 dating back. So definitely high risk there. So I might actually rather have Jefferson just since Burrow is such high risk. And then with Jefferson, he could still be the number 1 overall guy, but big question mark from QB. So let's move on. Another piece of news that I think has big fantasy implications. Sean Payton came out and said he expects a lot of growth from Marvin Mims Jr. in year 2. Mims didn't find enough playing time as a rookie to be much of a fantasy factor, but he did flash some big play ability in limited action. And with Jerry Jeudy's departure, this gives Mims an opportunity to earn a much bigger role in 2024. Also, Cortland Sutton is not attending voluntary offseason workouts as he seeks a new contract adjustment. So Mims has more opportunity to shine in Sean Payton's eyes. Mims, exciting sleeper in this year. He's moving up the rankings for me. What do you think?
Oh yeah, I mean compared to last year, yeah. I mean them getting rid of Judy, I feel like Mims will kind of be their main like slot receiver, with Sutton, Josh Reynolds, and then they brought in Troy Franklin as their 4th-round rookie who went to Oregon with Bo Nix. I mean, they have Tim Patrick back again, but he had season-ending injuries the last 2 years. But if he does end up making a comeback this year, he was good back when he played, but it's just tough to kind of predict for him. Yeah, I certainly like Mims too. Like when you saw him play, he looked explosive, and obviously he was a great on returns. I mean, he made the Pro Bowl for that. So I'm excited to see. I'm positive his usage will go up quite a lot. So it's just kind of a quarterback question. And maybe if it's Bo Nix playing, then how much will Troy Franklin become his main guy because of the familiarity there? So it's kind of tough to kind of guess who the quarterback will gravitate towards more, or if they're more of a distributor point guard type guy.
Yeah, but you can currently get Marvin Mims in the 14th round, pick 8 in the 14th round or so. So, I mean, I feel like that is great value there for what he could potentially be.
Yeah,
so I would take him in best ball drafts late, as your 5th or 6th wide receiver. Why not?
Yeah, I feel like it might just be because people don't really know exactly how that receiver room will look statistically, but I feel like he has the biggest upside, of all the guys they have there.
Absolutely. Okay. So the Lions came out this week and said they expect Jahmyr Gibbs to go to the next level, quote unquote, as a receiver in year 2. He was the third overall. He led the team he was 3rd for the team last season in overall receptions. I don't know how much room he has to grow there, as far as I don't think he's going to pass Amon-Ra or the tight end. Why am I blanking his name?
Every time I don't know how I forget it, but he's an Iowa guy.
Laporta. He's probably not going to pass either of those guys, but hearing that they want to get him even more involved in the passing game, that makes me more excited for PPR leagues to draft Jahmyr Gibbs. He's currently going in PPR leagues. He is going 12th overall and ranked 4th overall amongst running backs. I don't know. Gibbs, trending up or trending down for you?
I would say he's trending up, but I feel like everyone, it's kind of you have to look at how everyone views it. So since he's trending up, everyone's kind of taking him a lot earlier, So it's a kind of a question of the value of how high you think he's worth taking, if he's being taken up there next to bell cow guys that are the one running back that these teams have, like McCaffrey and Breece Hall and Bijan. I guess it's the question of, does he get enough volume, yards, touchdowns to kind of keep him in that conversation with those guys when there's David Montgomery there still?
Right. David Montgomery is still there. Still, you have him listed as the starter right now on the Ourlads depth charts.
Yeah, it's kind of just it's you can't. I've flipped them back and forth because there's not really a clear cut starter. They pretty much split. Montgomery started more games technically, but it's does really matter, who plays the very first snap. It's just Montgomery will usually be in on the first down, so he'll start. But they both play a lot. So I wouldn't look too much into that just because they play different roles. But I guess I am interested to see they drafted Sione Vaki from Utah, who played. He was kind of a two-way player. He played safety. We had him like the Ourlads scouts had him graded as a safety, but they're going to move him to running back. So I'm kind of interested to see how he mixes in, if he's going to be like a gadgety guy or what. But it kind of made sense because their depth behind them was pretty weak.
Right. Now, in PPR leagues, they have Jonathan Taylor listed right after Jahmyr Gibbs. He's not as involved in the passing game. If you're playing in non-PPR leagues, they have Jonathan Taylor above Jahmyr Gibbs. A couple of spots, actually, above Jahmyr Gibbs. They have Saquon Barkley above Gibbs, too. Who would you rather have? Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor?
What was Saquon, did you say?
So Jonathan Taylor is 4th overall in running backs. Saquon Barkley is 5th overall with running backs, and Gibbs 6th. And this is in non-PPR leagues.
Yeah, it's kind of tough because I feel like if it's non-PPR, I like Taylor the best just because I trust like the Colts rushing. I trust their running game, especially if Richardson's playing the year. Like last year, Taylor and Zach Moss too, when he was filling in, they were just like dominant, you know. So I like Taylor.
Zach Moss is not there anymore.
Yeah, right. So it's Trey Sermon and Evan Hull from last year, who was a 5th round pick. So there's not much competition there. I feel like it makes sense though in PPR for him to be a little bit lower because guys like Gibbs are getting a shit ton of receptions. So I like Taylor the best.
Is that what is a shit ton? What unit of measurement is that in fantasy?
It's like near, it's like 100 targets is a shit ton.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay. Sounds good. All right.
I'd say that's quite a good amount.
Yeah, no, that is a good amount. All right. So Jahmyr Gibbs moving up if you're in PPR, but we like Taylor better for non-PPR.
Yeah. Saquon versus Gibbs is pretty tough though. Like it's tough to kind of evaluate. I kind of always steer clear of the Eagles backfield. I just do I feel like for the longest time they haven't had, it's been like committee pretty strong there, you know.
Yeah, but they haven't had somebody like Saquon back there.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's hard for me mentally, but I want to feel like he's going to be really good. So I kind of like
in a lot of drafts, Saquon is going before Gibbs, and even in PPR leagues too. So I want
to think that I like Saquon's. I don't know how much room Gibbs has. I guess like you said, he was the 3rd in targets. I don't know how much room he has to go up. Whereas Saquon, I think, could go up a lot from being on the Giants. You know, the O-line especially is like so much better on the Eagles. Right. I like Saquon better just from a kind of potential ceiling side, but Gibbs is safer. That's kind of what I think.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Even you think he's even going to be safer there, even though there's not as much competition in the Eagles backfield?
I guess it depends. Yeah, I guess it depends if you're playing, like if it's no PPR whatsoever, if it's half PPR, because that kind of gives you a good floor if you have that. Saquon receives too, of course, but we don't really know exactly how much usage he'll see on the Eagles compared to how he was on the Giants. Yeah, that's a good question. Those guys are very. I put them pretty close, but I like Saquon just because it's kind of fun to root for a guy like that going to a really strong team.
Yeah, I guess I don't like to root for the Eagles, but just because
that's fair. Yeah,
just because Philly fans can be so nasty. But that's fine. That's fine. All right, moving on to our last news story that I had highlighted. Tajay Spears wants to see both Tony Pollard and he in the quote unquote top 5 best backs this year. I don't see that happening. Having 2 backs in the top 5, but it is interesting that Tony Pollard is going. He was a first rounder last year, And now he is going. Where is he going? He's going in the 8th round, whereas Spears is going in the 10th round. I'd kind of rather wait and see if Spears can beat out Pollard. Spears had what, 4.5 yards per carry last year as he was a backup for Derrick Henry. And we saw what Pollard did on that Cowboys team last year, and he was not much of a factor as much as we thought he was going to be. So Spears versus Pollard, where are you at?
Yeah, like you said, for these types of situations, I like to where it's like, to me, it's like a coin flip. They went out and spent money on Pollard, but then again, it's kind of like you just need to have these days it's committee. Most rooms have multiple running backs they need to use. So even if they think Spears is their guy, they still would go out and get somebody because you need the insurance. And then, but I think if you think it's going to be like, if you're pretty 50-50 on it, I feel like just go for the cheaper one. That's usually what I do. Generally, when I don't really I don't have a bias towards a certain guy in a backfield. And like you said, I think Spears looked a lot better than Pollard, though Pollard was kind of the main guy, whereas Spears was the change of pace guy. So there's a bit of he had less of a sample size, but I like Spears better because of that, and also because I think that he might be like the red zone guy. I'm wondering how much, how the usage is split between the two in the red zone.
Yeah, I feel like Spears is going to be the red zone guy. He's a bit more of a bruiser, right, than Pollard is. And so I'm wondering if Pollard will actually kind of take the third down role again like he had in Dallas when Ezekiel Elliott was still there.
Yeah, and Pollard was really good when Zeke was missing, and he was playing. But then this last year, when he finally got the job, then it kind of didn't go well at all. Which it could be, he did have an ankle injury at the end of 22, and so that could have been part of I know he had surgery on his ankle before this 23 season, so that could have been a part of it, why he looked worse. I mean, that's pretty huge for running backs, your ankle, of course, but yeah, it's pretty tough it's an entirely new offense, with Brian Callahan coming in. So I don't think it's that. I mean, if Pollard,
they went out and got Calvin Ridley too to add to DeAndre Hopkins, and they have Will Levis there. So will they be passing? Will Levis in year 2, will he be passing more?
Yeah, exactly. And I want to say that, yeah, you really hope the offense is as a whole just a lot better. I like the confidence from Spears though. I mean, Pollard was, you could have said that last year and not been too far off. Say he was a top 5 or so guy. He looked really good before this 23 season, and then Spears just has only played 1 year, so we haven't really seen much yet. But I don't know. I could see them being a really good duo.
Yeah. So we're both in agreement. We're both going to wait and take Spears in round 10 rather than Pollard.
If Pollard was cheaper, would you take Pollard?
Sure.
Yeah. I feel like
I kind of feel like they're a coin, like you said, it's a coin flip. Take the cheaper guy.
Yeah.
I agree with you. All right, moving on. Don't forget to check out Ourlads depth charts updated by our Duke of depth charts, Tucker Moss. We are the leader in depth charts in all the land. So make sure to check out our depth charts every day because there's updates all the time. Tucker is always on top of it, and any news that comes across, I get an alert in my email box that Tucker's already changed the depth charts. He's on top of it. So check out Ourlads depth charts at ourlads.com. All right. So I looked at the players who had the most movement in the last 20 days going up the fantasy ranks. Okay. And Ezekiel Elliott, which totally makes sense, is at number 1. He's had the most movement of any player because he went from not being drafted by anybody to being the Cowboys' #1 running back right now.
Yeah,
which seems kind of crazy, but
it is.
it's true. We've got Ezekiel Elliott, and all he has like Rico Dowdle. Is that how we say it?
Yeah, it's like Dowdle.
Rico Dowdle.
I've heard Dowdle, but I don't know if that's right or not.
Dowdle, and then also this week the Dallas came out and said that they are trying Deuce Vaughn at slot receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So Deuce Vaughn, also a running back in the running back room, smaller guy, smaller running back.
Very small.
Be pretty interesting as a slot receiver, though, huh?
I mean, yeah, I'd like to see. I'm just worried because of how small he is. Like that's why he really wasn't used much last year. Like he was a healthy scratch most of the year. It takes a kind of unicorn type player to pull off being 5'5". Like it's not that's not usually going to work really well. Like
yeah,
like guys like Darren Sproles works, but I mean, I'm rooting for him. That'd be fun to see. I want to see how much they use him. I read that he was being used in the slot. I feel like there's always reports like that, and then we end up just being like, yeah, he's just a kind of normal running back, just dump off like an angle or something he's running. But yeah, they have kind of just a bunch of sort of middling guys where we don't really know how much of a split it'll be. Like they signed Royce Freeman too. Like I don't know if he's big in their plans or what. I know some people really like Rico Dowdle, so I wouldn't be like. I feel like the clear top two is just Zeke and Dowdle are like kind of switch off. But Zeke isn't what he once was, so he's someone who I could easily see like his name value, kind of making him go earlier than he should.
Yeah, he's going in the 11th round right now, which is, behind the likes of Spears and Pollard, as we were talking. He's going, let's see, right around the names that are by him.
He's next to I think Gus Edwards,
Kendre Miller, Chase Brown, that range. Zach Charbonnet, Trey Benson.
That's a fair area to go, yeah.
But I would rather have the upside of a Kendre Miller of a Chase Brown though than
or Trey Benson, even like just guys like young guys like that, or I feel like
who the handcuff, they could be the clear back if the #1 back goes down. I just don't see. I mean, what are the Cowboys doing? They've got everybody on 1-year contracts. I was listening to a show recently where a Cowboys fan predicted that the Cowboys are actually tanking and that they might actually go for, they have an eye on Shedeur Sanders. And so, that's why it is a hot take. And I'm kind of staying away from all Cowboys right now, and unless like I see something change. I just don't know what they're doing. Other than like if CeeDee Lamb falls on my lap, yeah, sure, yeah. I'll take him. But I'm not loving the Cowboys' offense right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think Cooks was like pretty good value last year as like not costing much, but. He's not like super exciting.
But why did they give Dak just like the franchise tag, right? Like, why didn't they pay him?
Yeah, that's the question.
It makes me feel like they're not all in on this team.
Yeah, I've heard it postulated that Trey Lance is their future. So I don't know how much that is, but I know they like him. So yeah, it's pretty tough to tell. I mean, CD's really the only guaranteed good guy there. I mean, Dak is solid in super flex leagues too. Though it was really inconsistent last year, though, like dominant for the second half. But yeah, I don't really know what they're doing either. It feels like they're doing one last kind of go at it, and then next year they're gonna have to change a lot of stuff and decide what they would actually want to keep, because they can't just kick the can down the road forever.
Yeah. Another big mover in the rankings is Jalen Tolbert for the Cowboys. You have him listed #1 at the left wide receiver right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think So like I guess they had Gallup still last year, right? So he's kind of the presumptive guy to replace him. And they don't really have much. He's been changing recently. Is that what you said? Like his draft position?
Jalen Tolbert, he's been going up in the rankings quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Average draft position. So people are starting to pay more attention to him for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, there's not really a ton of competition in that room. Like they have Turpin, who's mainly like the return guy, gadgety guy, really fast player. Jalen Brooks was a 7th-round pick from last year. And then they got a 6th-round pick, Ryan Flournoy from Southeast Missouri State. So it's like Tolbert will have plenty of room here to kind of be that, to try to be that 2 or 3 behind Lamb and Cooks. So he has plenty of, he has like the draft capital, behind him. So I'm interested to see how well he does, because
he was a 3rd-round pick in 22.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which they haven't, like, besides CD in 20 when they took him in the first, they haven't really drafted receivers that high. Like Gallup was their other kind of guy, but they let him walk. So, yeah, I mean, I like him. How late's he going? Do you have that?
Yeah, I could pull that up right now. He is going.
Oh, he's going like late. I see. Yeah.
Oh, he's going. Yeah, he's pretty much undrafted right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if he ends up, I think it's just because we're not really exactly sure how that receiver room's shaken out, or if they're going to bring in another guy. So yeah, he's listed as a starter right now because I feel like he would be like in the current state of it, but this is the sort of thing you kind of have to watch for OTAs and leading up to in training camp and preseason to kind of see how what's going on with the wide receiver room. Like, I mean, also if they move like Deuce Vaughn to receiver, that will impact the others. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Mm-hmm. Some other big movers moving up the fantasy ranks have been Jared Goff and Tyler Conklin. Any thoughts on either of those guys? Why they would move? It hasn't been any big news.
Goff I think he probably just moved because he got a contract and Amon Ra got a contract. Mm-hmm. I don't really know why else it would change, but I like Goff a lot. He was great last year. He's just not as fun because he doesn't run, but
yeah.
But in terms of passers, though, he's one of the best up there. So him, and then who was the other you said?
Tyler Conklin.
Is he on the Jets?
Yeah, he's a tight end for the Jets.
Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to quiz you there.
What? You I thought you know everything.
No,
dude.
I was just making sure. I was making sure you knew. No, but that one, I'm surprised. I'm surprised it's going up recently. But if it's since the draft, a lot of the people had them taking like Brock Bowers, like to kind of be a new weapon there. And since that didn't end up happening, it's looking like they're going to be sticking with Conklin and Jeremy Ruckert again. So I could see Conklin being like a good value. I mean, I feel like he's probably going pretty late though, right?
Yeah, he's going in like the Conklin is.
Yeah, he's 24th tight end or something.
Yeah, I got him as the 22nd tight end right now, going in the 16th round.
So yeah, I mean, I feel like he currently would just be kind of a bye week fill-in guy, but this is the type of thing that changes after week 1. We see kind of the target share of teams, and if Mike Williams gets hurt, and they have Malachi Corley, who's a kind of unproven, he hasn't played yet, of course. But behind Garrett Wilson, there's kind of some unknowns. So Conklin could be that number 2 if Mike Williams gets hurt.
Mm-hmm. Players moving down the fantasy ranks. Daniel Jones was one of the biggest movers. Also, Ramondre Stevenson. Any ideas on why those 2 players are moving down the ranks?
I guess Daniel Jones is just because of I don't really buy into it, but because of the whole Drew Lock thing that like some people think Drew Lock might start. Mm-hmm. I don't think that there's been news of his rehab.
No, I mean, Daniel Jones is still the front runner according to like DraftKings Sportsbook as far as who is going to start. So the odds makers have Daniel Jones as the clear starter.
Yeah, I don't really know why he would be falling. I would think that he should have gone up since getting Neighbors. It's like kind of his first elite receiver. I mean, he hasn't had one.
Still a rookie, but yeah.
Yeah, elite potential.
Potentially elite.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know why he's falling, but then again, I'm not super high on him or anything. He's burned me in the past, so.
Yeah, he's burned me in the past too. And Ramondre Stevenson, I'm not sure why he's slipping either, other than he just didn't have a very good season last year.
Yeah. I think it's just because the Patriots they don't have a lot to be excited about for fantasy purposes or maybe just purposes.
Their overall wins went down from 5.5 to 4.5 in most books now. So that's what the Cardinals were predicted at last year, 4.5. So not great.
Yeah, like generally, if everyone thinks the team's gonna be bad, then it's not as really enticing to invest in the run game, because if they're behind, they're gonna have to throw, So, and Ramondre is not really a receiver. It would be Gibson, who's like their Gibson and Kevin Harris, who kind of take the receptions. So, I don't know why lately he's falling, but I understand kind of the apprehension around everyone on that team. Though you could get some good value on the receivers, like just because there's so many, we don't really know who like the top guy will be there.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's all I had for today. It's a shorter show. We've just did a half hour instead of an hour show. So this is something that we'll continue to experiment with as far as like how long our shows will be, what you, the viewers, respond to most, or listeners, if you're listening on the podcast format. So please, if you have thoughts, hit us up at team@ourlads.com if you want to send us a note or just comment on this video. Tell us what you do. I read all the comments, make sure, even the ones that hate us, I read them all. And so thank you. Thanks for watching, and make sure to subscribe to Ourlads YouTube channel. And Tucker and I will be back on Wednesday with the Ourlads Gambling Show. And we're back with the Fantasy Show next Monday. So thanks so much for watching, and best of luck on all of your drafts.